Hello to Wallaton. It is time for another edition of Kitchen Science, where I get to combine two of my favorite things, my kitchen and science. And it's going to be a good day on Kitchen Science today. Super fun. Today we are going to be building boats out of tinfoil. Simple stuff, but we get to test our engineering skills with boat building. Here's what... Okay, in order to start building boats out of tinfoil, you will need basically three things, and then something else that I'll explain. You will need, not surprisingly, tinfoil. Actually, aluminum foil. That's what we now make tinfoil out of. People still call it tinfoil, but it's aluminum foil. And the boats that you will see that I've made, I made out of a piece about this big. So this is all the tinfoil that you need, about that much. Then you will need either a sink or a big bowl. Definitely a sink can be easier to source, but I happen to have a delightfully large bowl, so I'm going to use my large bowl. And you will need a bunch of water with which to fill up the sink or bowl. And last but not least, you're going to need something to test your boat with. So what we will do is we are going to build boats out of tinfoil. We are going to put them in the water. And that's not it. They should float because tinfoil is very light. We're going to see how much weight they can take. So see how well we built our boats. So I have a big bucket of pennies here, and we'll use these pennies as weights to see how well built my boats are. All right, you want to try doing some boat building? Excellent. I recommend you take some time building your boat. You could build it really fast if you want. I'm going to kind of show you basically how I built one of my boats, and then I will show you the three boats that I have constructed for this experiment. So I'm kind of folding it over. I'm kind of creating some lips, some sides of my boat, trying to make it so that it is as much of a boat shape as possible. So I'm kind of rolling and bending and folding, and tinfoil is a delight to work with. It's a very, very easy thing to work with. So, eventually after enough folding and crimping and squeezing and rolling, you'll end up with something like this. So I'm going to show you. I made three different boats because this is a true experiment. We are going to see which of my boats will float the best, which of my boats will take the most weight. So with this experiment, we'll be talking about buoyancy and gravity. So that's just a preview of the science portion. So there's my first boat. My first boat is a square. I have folded it over twice to make a thicker tinfoil, wondering if maybe that would make a more resilient boat. My second boat, I tried to fashion into a canoe to see if perhaps canoes are the best at taking weight. My third boat, I made into a barge. This is a big flat boat, and I'm going to see how much I can fit into my big flat boat. Again, all of these were made with the same amount of tinfoil, just so I could test my designs with a controlled element. So the controlled element is the amount of tinfoil. It's always the same, but try different designs and see how much weight your boat can take. Are you ready to test? Let's our boats. Okay, like I said, I've made three. First, we shall test the square. You can see it in there, right? Okay, so I'm going to grab my bucket of pennies. Where did they go? Here they are. Bucket of pennies. I hope I said this already, but if not, you can do anything. You could use slices of potatoes if you wanted to. You could use Lego minifigs if you wanted to. So whatever you want to test with, just as long as you're testing with the same thing each time, so your results will be comparable. That's the only critical thing. But you could test with pennies, or test with quarters, or test with whatever. Okay, let's speed it up a little. See how many pennies the big square is going to take. All right, it looks like we're up to about 30 or 40. We're getting there, okay. I think I can see water about to be taken on board. 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. Oh, water's coming in. Water's coming in from this side. Uh-oh, look out. But we got all the way up to 57 before water started coming. And it's time to try the canoe. Okay. So with my very thick boat, we got up to 57 pennies. Let's see how many canoe. Okay, 2. All right, it's time for battle canoe. I think we're up to about 10 and 20, maybe 30, up to 40. Will it compete? 48, 50. Oh, 50! And it sunk to the bottom at 50. So no, the canoe is not better. It's time to test the barge. This is my thinnest boat, but my flattest, widest, largest boat. So let's see what we think. Now, one thing we should have been doing all along as a good experimenter is making a hypothesis. So what we should do whenever we do an experiment is make a guess as to what will happen when we test what we've done. So I made 3 boats, and my guess, and I should have shared this with you, was that my barge would hold the most pennies. Because a barge in real life hauls big piles of coal and garbage and all kinds of stuff. And it is able to haul very heavy things. And I thought maybe the large, flat version would act like a barge. So my guess was that this one would hold the most pennies. Now, you could also say that maybe the one that had the thickest tin foil would hold the most pennies because it was the most solid design. Or the canoe, right? You could make an argument for the canoe. It obviously didn't win. But, it wouldn't have been unreasonable to think that the canoe might have won and to make that hypothesis, make that guess, and then test it out. So now we will test out my hypothesis. This was the one, the reason I'm doing it last, was the one I thought might be the best. And we're going to see if we can get it up to 57 pennies or more. Oh, will the barge win? Now we will find out. We got about 10 on there now, getting up to 20. Will we be able to get up to 30? Maybe even 40? Will it hit 50? 56, 57. I think we have a winner. 58, 59. 60, 61, 62, 63, 64, 65, 66. Okay, we definitely have a winner now. I want to find out how much weight this will take. So I happen to have a bucket of minifigs here. So let's see what these guys do. Okay, there's minifig number 1. Well, clearly the barge is the winner. And how many minifigs can it take? Woo! Okay, let's see if this cool character is going to do it. 23. Nope. Okay, what about this little gentleman? 24. 20, yeah, maybe she'll do it. 25. Oh, there we go. 66 pennies and 25 minifigs is what it took to take down the barge. Okay, it's time for some science. Okay, it's time for some science. It's time for some science. It's time for some science today. Okay, today we are talking about 2 principles that are incredibly important. We're talking about gravity, which I hope you've heard of. It's the force that pushes everything down to the earth. It is the reason that we do not float off into space, like if we were on the moon, we might. So gravity is pushing everything down. And then you have buoyancy, which is a force associated with water that pushes everything up. Okay, so buoyancy works like this. It will push things up to the extent that you have displaced water. That's moving the water. So if you have a rock and you drop it into a bucket of water, what happens? It goes zoop straight down to the bottom, right? It does not float on top. But if you take a boat that weighs the exact same amount as that rock, but it's wide and flat and it's shaped like a boat, it will float on top, even though it weighs the same. And the reason is because the boat is displacing more water. And so it's able to stay on top. So it's able to use that buoyancy. Whereas the rock is hardly displacing any water at all. So it just goes straight down. So when we built our barge, the large, flat one, we were displacing a lot of water and able to keep that boat on top of the water for more things, for more pennies and more minifigs. And it took a while until gravity took hold and made that thing sink. So go forth, grab some tinfoil, get to a sink and see what you can do with buoyancy and gravity. And while you're at it, check out a dude named Archimedes. He was pretty amazing, and he's the guy that taught us a lot about buoyancy. All right, go forth in science, and I'll see you in a few weeks.